Hey guys, today I thought I'd do something fun. I wanted to go through the top 20 questions online in auto insurance. And I'm pulling this right off of MurrayGRP.com. Have no clue who they are, but Google seems to think that a lot of people are asking questions through them. What is uninsured motorist coverage? Uninsured motorist is when somebody hits you and they have no insurance. They're driving illegally, they have no coverage, and then you would have an additional coverage that you could add on in most states that would protect you liability-wise as far as being injured or even property damage in some states, depending on what the state is doing, but they'll cover your car or your medical up to the limits that you set. What's the difference between comp and collision coverage? So comprehensive is other than collision. That's the other version. What that is typically hail damage, theft, vandalism. The only time when you're moving it counts as a comprehensive claim is if you hit an animal. Collision is collision. Anytime you hit a vehicle, someone hits you, it's two things colliding at the same time. How does full glass coverage work? Oh, that's a good one. The full glass coverage is an addition onto your policy in some states. Not all states offer it. For example, I think Arizona is the most common one, and Texas is huge for glass claims. You can have, let's say, a $500 deductible on comprehensive, but if you want them to waive the deductible completely and pay zero out of pocket, you can add full glass. And so anytime you have a chip in the windshield or a crack, they'll either fix it or replace the windshield or any of the glass in the vehicle at no extra cost. If you have a major accident, then obviously you're going to pay your deductible and it's already part of the claim. What is Medpay on your car insurance policy? Also a great question. Medpay is for you. So there's three parts to insurance. There's coverage for you, other people, and your vehicle. So the coverage that you're buying is, let's say, $100,000 a person up to $300,000 per accident. That's if you injured somebody in an accident. You're protecting yourself so they don't come after you. That doesn't cover anybody in your car. So Medpay will cover people in your car, each person. If there's three people in the car and you have 5,000 Medpay, it's 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, as long as they're medical. If you get hurt up to 1,000, they're only going to pay the 1,000. They're not going to give you more money. But it's to protect you and people in your car as far as medical. What is covered by comprehensive physical damage on car insurance? I'm not 100% sure I understand what they're asking there, but if they're saying comprehensive, it's what we mentioned earlier. Theft, vandalism, if you hit an animal. So that's the physical damage part of it. It would cover your car. So whatever the value of your car is at the time of the accident, minus whatever deductible you have, that's your comprehensive coverage. Do I need more than the state minimum coverage? Yes. If my car breaks down, will it auto insurance carrier cover a rental car? No, not unless you add it. So whenever you have comprehensive, then typically they'll let you add towing, road service, or they'll let you add, they'll let you add car rental coverage. It's usually in $20, $30, $50, and some do a little bit higher than that. That's per day. So if you have $30 per day, up to $900 per incident. The reason they don't just say 30 days is because some months don't have 30 days. So they just do it per incident. What is the household rating and does it affect my car insurance premiums? Well, it can be two things. So they are either talking about the people in your home, the number of drivers in household. So for example, we'll use Progressive. They count anyone in the house as a possible driver. They don't rate them the same, but if you have 4 people in the house, that's more expensive than if you had 1 person in the house. Whether they're on your policy or not, they're taking that into consideration. A lot of it in certain states they don't necessarily do, but it's more so for like a medical situation. If you got hurt, you had 5,000 Medpay, and there's 4 people typically in a trip, and then they just want to know they have the right coverage. So does it cost much to say they live in the house? Not really, but you should tell them. If my garage burns down, will my home insurance cover my car? No. Anything that has to have insurance needs to have its own policy. Boat, motorcycles, cars, houses. So if the house caught fire, the car's not covered unless it has car insurance. If the car caught fire and burned the house down, you'd have 2 claims. But yes, so that would be a different story. But no, in that answer, it's not covered because it has to have its own policy. Does my car insurance cover a hit and run accident? That's comprehensive. So, it can go both ways. It really depends on the claims adjuster. Technically, hit and run is an accident because something collided with your car. Although they could deem it as like vandalism or something else. And a lot of times, I'd say It's almost half and half. Half the time the adjuster puts it as comprehensive. The other times they put it as collision. The benefit is if they do comprehensive, most people do a lower deductible there, so it's less out of pocket you're going to pay. Are Nofault and personal injury protection the same? Pretty much, yes. So in Michigan, which is one of the hardest states to insure, that's where I live, it's a no-fault state. And the reason it's a no-fault state is mainly because you go off on your separate ways. If I get an accident, I go get my insurance. If you get an accident, whether it was my fault or not, you go claim your own. So that's kind of the weird part about it. But part of that is PIP, personal injury protection. It's unlimited medical in our state at the time. They're changing it soon. That's part of the no-fault portion. So a lot of people call them the same, although they're technically two separate things. Texas, for example, is similar to that, where they offer PIP, but it's optional, so you can have it and can't have it. So that's kind of a different, the opposite spectrum. What is other than collision? That's comprehensive. As we said earlier, other than collision is comprehensive. When do I file an insurance claim? Perfect question. I made a video about that. Go watch that one. There are certain situations where I personally wouldn't file a claim. I can't tell you not to, and I never tell my customers not to, but I do strongly tell them what I would do. So I give them an example. Here's what I would do. Here's the 800 number. If you want to file it, great. If not, it's up to you. What's the difference between bodily injury and Medpay? Kind of mentioned it earlier, bodily injury, that's covering other people. Medpay is covering people in your car. Does my auto insurance pay if someone else drives my car? I don't know if there's a company out there that doesn't do it this way, but it's technically not a law to have it covered that way. But if someone else is driving your car, unless they're excluded, let's talk about it. So yes, if they are driving your car, it could be they stole your car, they drove it overnight, or they didn't have permission, they drove it, you gave them permission, they drove it. Every coverage that I've ever written has been this way. They allow that to all your coverages to carry over into the person driving your vehicle, unless they're excluded. Now, if they're excluded, you're specifically signing a form that they're never going to drive your car, and don't rate me for that person, or at least don't rate me for their tickets and accidents and things like that. So then in that case, if that person drove your car and had an accident, then no, they would not be covered. These are some good questions. Can I cancel my auto insurance policy anytime? Yes, you can. It's an open-ended contract. So here's the cool part. The reason they put this into place was so that if you had 2 tickets and an accident and they don't want to insure you anymore, they can't just drop you right there. They don't have to say, 30 days from now you're done, go find someone else. They have to wait until the policy term ends because it's a contract. And so the reason it's open-ended is because you can exit anytime, they can't. That's really to protect you guys. What happens to comprehensive and collision premium when my car loses value? Very little. So insurance companies, one, are never going to tell you when the rates are lower. So it's something that you kind of have to be on top of. It's kind of an unfortunate thing. What I tell customers is typically, as long as the rates stay where you're comfortable, you're great. If every 3 to 5 years, that's kind of the time frame I would say to double check, is have us reshop it, because we work with 17 companies. There's multiple companies I can check, especially if you had a life-changing event. You bought a house, you sold a house, you had a ticket, you had an accident. Some companies are better fits for you. You might be the perfect driving record here, and you're a great fit for Safeco today, but 2 accidents later, that's not really their model, right? They're not looking for that type of claims. And then you might be a better fit for AAA. That's just an example, but that's a perfect example. Or maybe Progressive wants you more often. They're lighter premiums on tickets. Depending where you're at in life and how things change, and every few years you should just check. You should also check on those premiums. Question number 20, what is physical damage coverage on a car insurance policy? I'm assuming it could be one of 2 things. You're either asking what is property damage, which is the coverage for other people. So you've got bodily injury and then property damage. Typically a policy will read 100/300/100 or 25/50/25. There's different ways, but what that is bodily injury, 100 a person or whatever your limit is. And then if there's multiple people in the car that got hurt per accident, so 300,000 per accident, and then slash the property damage if you damage someone's vehicle, it's 100,000. So if you damage a Ferrari and it's $108,000 to fix that Ferrari, you're covered for 100, you owe them $8,000. That's why it's important to make sure that you have the right property damage. It's so cheap to have that coverage. Max it out as high as you can, do at least 100,000. if they'll let you. It depends on your bodily injury limits. There's packages that you pick. Typically it's 25, 50, 25, 50, 100, 50. So that first number is usually what the property damage is. 100, 300, 100, 250, 500. And most people do 100 there because most people don't go above 100, but you can do 250. The cost difference between that is so low that it's worth it to have it as high as you can. I'm talking maybe $1 a month if you upped it from 50,000 to 100,000 or 250,000. It's so minute that you're not going to feel the difference. Hey guys, if any of this was helpful, definitely leave me a comment below. If you have questions and other videos you want me to make, I'd love to help you out. Feel free to ask questions. Share this with anyone that you think might get some good use out of it. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next one.